Hello once again and welcome to another edition of My Weekly Bond. This week we're going to be looking at what is quite possibly the worst film of the series, Quantum of Solace.
Right everyone, get set for the new Daniel Craig gun barrel sequence that's definitely coming. Oh, any second now, here it comes. What? Huh? What the hell? No! No, you cannot do that!
Right, you got away with it in Casino Royale because that was Bond becoming Bond, so it didn't make sense to have the gun barrel at the immediate opening of the film, but once it was the end of the sequence and we got into the titles, it was great then, because it was a nice surprise as well, but here it doesn't make any sense. Bond has already earned the gun barrel. It just doesn't make sense not to include it here.
Anyway, here we go, folks. This is the pre-credits sequence, and it features Bond fleeing from a load of grunts in his Aston Martin, and it's actually a pretty cool opening. I think, anyway. Well, okay, it's kind of cool in its own right, if a little unremarkable. We're still very much in Casino Royale territory here, and the car has no gadgets beyond being bulletproof. But actually, I do really like how the door of Bond's car gets taken off towards the beginning of the sequence. It gives him some real vulnerability during the scene, and I actually think it's quite inventive. The editing for the sequence is, well, we'll come to the editing of this film shortly. Anyway, Bond dispatches with his assailants, and we find ourselves in Sienna. What? Oh, okay, wait a minute. What the hell is this title card about? This is a Bond film, for goodness sake. What's with the elaborate titles in this film? I know this is a really minor thing to complain about, but I just hate these pretentious fonts for the locations. It's just not necessary. Casino Royale used something very plain and simple, and it worked. This is just distracting and silly and doesn't fit in with the style of Casino Royale. Bond drives his car into a garage, opens the boot, and Mr. White is there. Hehe, lols. And then we have our credits sequence.
Another Way to Die is a terrible song.
Actually, no, that's an insult to other terrible songs. Another Way to Die is so ridiculously bad, so mind-numbingly awful to listen to, so insipid, so ear-rapey, it almost feels like Jack White deliberately set out to write a song devoid of good lyrics, devoid of tune. Fucking hell, it's devoid of anything that makes for a pleasant listening experience. It's not only the worst Bond song ever, I'd go as far to call it one of the worst songs in the history of recorded sound. It's that bad. People have tried telling me that it's a song that grows on you, but no, it really doesn't. I've seen this film at least 15 times since it came out, and each time I sit and I watch the opening credits in their entirety, and you know what? The song is as ungodly the 15th time as it is the first. What makes the whole situation even worse is that Amy Winehouse was in talk to do the song at one point, and I fucking loved Amy Winehouse. I think she was a great singer, and I think she could have done a really amazing Bond theme. She has such a smooth, powerful singing voice. She'd be perfect. But Jack White and Alicia Keys, what the hell? Anyway, on with the film. Turns out this is some kind of MI6 base where Mr. White has been brought to be interrogated by M herself. Because obviously the head of the British Secret Service would personally take part in such matters, especially with just a couple of bodyguards. This is really stupid and definitely a side effect of the, well, we've got Judi Dench, we may as well use her syndrome. Her being here is even stupider than when she put herself in harm's way being at that American base in Die Another Day. Yes, Judi Dench is a fine actress, and yes, it's great to use her more than you would normally, but there has to be some logic to where you actually place M. Like in The World Is Not Enough, that made sense because she was out in the field. It made sense because she was a personal friend of the King's. This doesn't make any sense. Well, anyway, M exposits a bit, reminding the audience that Vesper was killed not so long ago and that her boyfriend who gave her love knot necklace might in fact be a baddie, and Bond is a pretty cold bastard if he doesn't want revenge for the death of someone he loves. Anyway, the interrogation gets underway with M leading it when this happens.
The first thing you should know about us is that we have people everywhere. Am I right?
The small section where Mitchell reveals he's in league with Mr. White and the organisation has always fascinated me. I mean, like, when I first saw this sequence in the cinema, I thought they'd killed M. I thought she'd been shot. I couldn't concentrate on the chase scene that followed because I just had these images of Judi Dench lying in a pool of blood in this weird sort of dungeon place. It's very difficult to focus on something when you have that image in your mind.
So I've discussed this sequence with a lot of people, and to be honest, one of the responses I get a lot of the time after I complain about the editing is, well, you should pay more attention to it. And it's like, well, no, wait a minute. When there is hardly a single shot that lasts for more than 12 frames, the camera is constantly moving around, and it's on a giant screen in the cinema in front of you, it becomes a bit difficult to really follow what's going on. I don't think it's clear at all what happens in this scene. It is literally, in fact, only this time, going through it frame by frame, that I've noticed Mitchell's bullet ricocheting off that pole that M stood by, and that's why she escapes. For ages I thought it was Bond, like, diving onto her or something, but it's not, because he, like, wriggles around the floor and throws the chair. I don't think it's clear at all that M is running up those stairs. It could have been Mr. White or another agent. It's not clear how many MI6 agents are even in this building. We don't get a good, clear shot of M after she's been shot at. There's no dialogue explaining what just happened. It's just a total mess. Though a fairly exciting chase sequence follows, which includes this weird little wouldn't be out of place in a Roger Moore film bit. Before we get to the top of the tower, why did Bond ring that bell exactly? Theatrics much? Anyway, I really like this fight sequence. It's really inventive and quite tense, and unlike earlier, I don't have any issue following what's going on. Anyway, after that, it's back to England. Really hate these title cards. Anyway, yes, back to England, where Mitchell's apartment is being searched for clues connecting him to the mysterious organisation Mr. White referred to earlier.
When someone says we've got people everywhere, you expect it to be hyperbole. Florists use that expression. Doesn't mean that they've got somebody working for them inside the bloody room.
I've always really enjoyed that cut after the florist line. It's just like, Bond's looking at that guy like, is he a florist?
Bond and M head back to MI6, where we meet Bill Taylor, played by Rory Kinnear. Oh wait, no, hang on a minute, this can't be MI6. No, surely MI6 could never look this bland and rubbish. I mean, seriously, what? MI6 is great in the past 5 films. Why make it look so horribly cold and plain in this one? Oh, Peter Lamont, why did you have to retire? Anyway, through a tagged banknote found in Mitchell's apartment, it is discovered that he had a contact in Haiti, and Bond sets out to interrogate him, but ends up killing him, taking his identity and briefcase, and being picked up by this film's Bond girl, Camille Montez, played by the gorgeous Olga Kurylenko. Our pair have a little drive around, and it becomes clear that Slate was to kill Camille, who throws Bond out of a car and goes to confront her lover, environmentalist, and this film's main villain, though you wouldn't have guessed it through his bland and not special at all introduction, Dominic Green, played by Mathieu Amalric. Is also here we meet Elvis, the villain's main henchman. I wonder what character-defining ability this guy is going to have. Metal teeth, diamonds in his face, super strength. No, it's just the bowl cut, isn't it? Well, that's pretty lame. Oh, by the way, did I mention I don't like any of the villains in this film? Except Mr. White, anyway.
I knew we shouldn't have slept together. I think I'm starting to like you.
So you did just try and have me killed?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but if I found out someone had just tried to kill me, I would go right to that person. I would go straight to them and confront them about it, especially if they're surrounded by a load of armed guards. I can't see anything going wrong with that.
It's also here that we're introduced to General Medrano, another villain of the film. We learn here that Camille has been trying to get to the General for a while now, and when they come to face here, well, I think it's a major shortfall of the film. At this point, we, the audience, don't know why Camille wants to get to the General, so her seeing him has little to no impact for us. If we'd have known previously that he'd killed her family, then it might have had some more resonance. I also think having them meet here rather dilutes any sense of difficulty that Camille had to get to meet him. Maybe if we'd gone like 70% of the film not seeing him and learning about all these terrible things that he did to her family and really got to know her emotionally when they eventually did meet, let's say 2/3 into the film, that meeting could have had a great deal of impact. But hey, what do I know?
The girl that just walked in here, did you give her that? Tell her to call me.
Vous voulez quoi? Je veux qu'elle l'appelle.
Reached Universal Export. Our offices are currently closed.
Fais gaffe la prochaine fois.
Pay attention? But he was paying attention. That's how he got the card from Bond. That was... I mean, what you're asking him to do is, like, the opposite of paying attention.
There's a small boat chase scene, which doesn't really compare to Live and Let Die, and then after splitting with Camille, Bond contacts M, who's in her office. Ugh. What the hell? Oh, it's so ugly. It's... Hey, wait a minute, actually. This film takes place immediately after Casino Royale, right? Well, how did MI6 have the time to totally redecorate? I mean, M was in her old office at the end of Casino Royale. I mean, and what, are they in a new building now? Ugh! Where's Peter Lamont? Please bring Peter Lamont back. Anyway, M tells Bond to investigate Green while we follow Green and Elvis on a plane where they meet with Gregory Beam, not Bean, Beam, head of the CIA South America section, and our old friend Felix Leiter, played again by the excellent Jeffrey Wright. In this scene, we see Beam strike a deal with Green to not interfere with his affairs in exchange for access to Bolivian oil stocks. Ugh! Quit it with those horrible title cards, they're so out of place! Bond infiltrates an opera where Quantum members are using earpieces to communicate. Bond gets some snaps and misses seeing Mr. White before we have a short action sequence which could have been a lot more entertaining than it actually is, but never mind. Bond makes it to a rooftop where he throws a bodyguard to a Quantum member named Guy Haynes off a roof. Guy Haynes happens to be an advisor to the British PM, by the way, and his bodyguard, who is a really cool guy, by the way, ends up being killed by Green's men, but everyone else thinks it's Bond that killed him. Anyway, Bond meets with another returning character, Mathis, and convinces him to go to Bolivia with him. We have a boo-hoo, the woman I once loved is dead scene on the plane before our heroes arrive in Bolivia, where they are greeted by our secondary Bond girl, Agent Fields, played by Gemma Arterton, who is ordered to send Bond back to Britain, but instead ends up helping him find his stationery. Mathis invites Bond and Fields along to a Green Planet party to meet with his friend, the Chief of Police.
It might be useful to know your real name.
Fields. Just Fields.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a setup for a payoff we never get.
I'll talk about Agent Fields and how she's handled in this film shortly, but first I'd like to talk about the mess that is this Green Planet party scene. The whole sequence is just baffling to me from a directorial standpoint, and it shouldn't be. It's a really simple scene, but it's just botched so much. I hate how we get the odd random shot of some nobody in the crowd. Green is making his little speech, and we have these shots focusing on these random extras in the crowd. It's a really small thing for me to complaining about, and I'm not complaining about the extras themselves. It is how the shot is focusing on them as if they are main characters, as if we, the audience, should be caring about them, about what their reactions are. And there is no reaction to gauge. There is no character there for us to be interested in. So I don't understand why these shots aren't of either Bond or Fields or Mathis or Camille, or even just show Green talking, because Bond, Fields, Mathis and Camille are the people that we're following in this story, not these random people. I mean, I never thought I'd be giving Lee Tamahori as an example of quality directing, but the scene in Dine of the Day in which Gustav Graves is outside the Ice Palace talking about Icarus is very similar to this, and that's how this scene should have been handled. At no point in that scene in Dine of the Day do we have a random shot focusing on anyone who isn't integral to the story. I also hate how Felix is revealed as being in this scene. It's just like, we're in the scene and Bond is heading over to Camille and Green, and then he's just like, oh, just a shot of Felix there? It's completely out of context. They may as well have just stuck a subtitle in the film that read, oh, by the way, Felix is here, and it would have just been as subtle. I also hate the tracking shot that immediately precedes the shot of Felix, because I think it's supposed to be like a POV shot from Felix, like he's watching Bond from across the way, but it just doesn't work. Maybe if you'd have had the camera over Felix's shoulder in the tracking shot of Bond, because then we, the audience, would have realised we're seeing something from someone else's point of view here, and then when Felix is actually revealed, it would have been a surprise, but the audience would have been prepared for the reveal. At the moment, it's just like, tracking shot of Bond, Felix, wait, what, why is Felix there? Oh, okay, we're just getting on with the scene as if that shot wasn't even in there. He pops up again towards the end of the scene, watching Bond leave, which is just as pointless. Felix serves no purpose to this scene at all. Literally, the only reason I can fathom to even feel the need to show him in this scene is that it sets up that he and Beam are in Bolivia, but that could have been handled so much better by maybe having him interact with Bond or Green or Mathis anyone in this bloody party. I'm not even sure if we're meant to think Bond even saw Felix here. Oh, it's just such a mess. And the third and final thing I hate about this scene is Fields tripping over Elvis and his wig falling off, or at least I think that's what it's supposed to be. Is it a wig? I think it is, right? Either way, it took me multiple viewings to even get that was what we are seeing. Oh, it's just such a bad reveal. Anyway, Bond and Camille drive off, and it turns out Mathis has been beaten up by the police or the general or something because everyone's on Green's payroll. Mathis dies in Bond's arms in what I think is supposed to be a touching scene, but it just comes off as forced. Here, Bond asks Mathis if Mathis is his cover name, which, of course, I hate. It's like it's throwing a bone to the cretins who subscribe to the codename theory, and it's just... Well, you can see my video about the codename theory too, my feelings on that, but the blatant acknowledgement of cover names in an official Bond film just pisses me off no end.